All right, we've got some interesting material here to dive into today. It's a source focusing on a topic that, well, many of you following OnPassive have likely been waiting for: commissions, the coming commissions.
That's right. And the specific source we're looking at is a 20-minute conversation. Features OnPassive Mike Ellis, and Ashley Burke, the founders.
And they titled it The Coming Commissions, a New Dawn for OnPassive Founders and Resellers.
Quite a title.
It is. So our mission really for this deep dive is pretty straightforward. We want to take what was said in that specific conversation and just sort of unpack the key claims, the descriptions they offered about these commissions.
Exactly. We're aiming to understand the picture they painted, about the impact, the structure, the timing, the global significance, all based purely on what's in this material you shared with us.
And we should probably note the speakers in the source, they definitely flag this as significant. They talk about anticipation, reward.
Yeah, they mentioned visionaries, founders, and future leaders watching across the world. Frame it as something people have dreamed of, prayed for, believed in. A lot of weight given to it.
Okay, so let's get into what they actually laid out. They start with a pretty big vision for why this commission structure even exists, according to them.
Yes, that was quite striking. One of the core claims right at the start is that this system, wasn't just built to make a few people rich.
Okay.
Instead, they state its purpose is, and this is a direct quote essentially, to correct a global wrong, the exploitation of the masses in traditional and digital business.
Wow. Correct a global wrong. That's setting the bar high.
It's a very bold statement about their mission, yeah.
So how do they describe the system itself, the one that's supposed to achieve this? What are its characteristics according to the source?
Well, they use a few key descriptors. It's AI calibrated.
AI calibrated.
Also fairly distributed, global, and borderless. And they specifically say it's built to sustain generations.
Sustain generations.
And they emphasize it's, about more than just money. They frame it as rewards for things like faith, patience, belief, and wanting to help others.
So the picture they paint is AI-driven fairness, global reach long-term, and tied to this bigger purpose. Given that kind of scope, how are they saying it will actually roll out? Did the conversation touch on the approach?
It did. They described the rollout as systematic and phased.
Systematic and phased. Why that way? Did they give a reason?
Yeah, they did. The reason given is quite specific. They say they're building a financially compliant, digitally secured, and globally synchronized commission system.
Okay, and they contrasted that with other things.
They explicitly set it apart from what they termed a local MLM scheme.
Right.
So this careful, phased approach, according to them, is necessary because they're aligning with all these complex requirements.
What kind of requirements did they actually list?
The source mentions security protocols, national regulations, financial institution partnerships, and also AI-backed tracking and validation.
So it sounds like they're stressing the complexity of making something work legally and technically everywhere. Banks, regulations, security.
Exactly. That seems to be the justification provided for why it's phased and not just switched on everywhere at once. It's positioned as a much more complex build than simpler models.
Okay, that helps frame the why behind the phased approach they described. Now let's shift to the kind of income this system is supposed to generate. They talked a lot about residual income. Right?
Oh, definitely. That was a major point. They state clearly this is not a one-time commission system. The income, they claim, is based on system-generated results.
System-generated results, meaning not based on personal recruitment efforts. They made that distinction.
Yes, explicitly saying it's not about chasing people.
Okay, so what does the source say actually drives these system-generated results?
According to that conversation, the drivers they listed were things like AI-generated traffic, automated customer acquisition, something called auto-consumption of digital products, and ongoing customer renewals.
Auto-consumption. Interesting term.
It is. And they summed up this whole process quite neatly, actually. The phrase used was, it's business automation feeding income automation.
Business automation feeding income automation. So the system's automated processes are meant to directly create the income stream.
That's the core idea they presented.
And what's the intended outcome of this residual income for the people receiving it? What do they say it allows?
The claim is that it's designed to be residual, predictable, and scalable. And the purpose, to allow people to potentially retire, build communities, educate children, and fund dreams. So framed as a tool for financial independence and achieving personal goals.
The source conversation also had a very specific message aimed at the founders, didn't it? The early adopters.
It did, yeah. Ash Mufare, in the source, calls this period their harvest season.
Harvest season.
He describes their patience as sacred, really emphasizing they believed because of the vision, not just money. That was a strong point made.
And the return for them, is it just financial, or did they describe it differently?
It's presented as being both. Financial, yes, but also about impact. The source claims founders will see lives change because of your faith, that they'll receive earnings from multiple tiers and be honored globally as founding pioneers.
Honored globally.
And they really doubled down on the ongoing nature of it, claiming OnPassive will reward them not just today, but every day your system performs. And then that memorable line, "This is a system that never sleeps."
A system that never sleeps. Yeah, that definitely stands out. Okay, so if the system is generating results, how do people actually get the commissions? What do they say about the mechanics, the distribution?
They pointed to integrated systems for accessing the money, specifically mentioning their own digital wallet.
Oh, right, the O wallet.
Yes, described as O-Wallet, our secured AI-powered digital wallet.
Yeah.
They also brought up global partnerships with payment processors and automated tax and regulatory compliance.
And the accessibility, is it meant to work anywhere?
They made a specific claim about global accessibility. The quote was something like, "Whether you're in Nairobi, New York, or New Delhi, you'll be able to access commissions."
Okay. And did they describe the qualities of that access?
Yes, they listed transparency, speed, and accuracy as the attributes. And they framed the whole thing as the first global earning platform for digital entrepreneurs that respects borders and empowers freedom.
Respects borders and empowers freedom. That ties back to that earlier correcting a global wrong idea.
It seems connected, yes.
Looking forward then, did the source talk about how commissions might change or grow over time?
It did. They stated that commissions are expected to evolve as the whole OnPassive ecosystem expands.
Meaning more products, more services.
Exactly. As more things roll out, they mentioned O Marketplace, Academy, commercial versions of O Connect, even physical products were mentioned. The sources for commissions are claimed to multiply.
So the earning potential isn't static based on what exists now, according to the source?
That's the claim. They gave examples like potential earnings from every purchase in OShop, every minute spent in O Connect, every course sold on Academy, every service transacted across the globe.
So a lot of potential future streams feeding into it?
Right. They described the whole thing as not static, but a living ecosystem of value circulation. And they connected every founder to this directly, calling them the lifeblood of that ecosystem.
Lifeblood of a living ecosystem. That's quite a powerful metaphor they use there in the source. All right, to sort of wrap up our exploration of this specific conversation, what was the final message, the call to action they left people with?
The closing message in the source was delivered with, well, a lot of conviction. A very bold statement. We are ready, and your reward is real.
Your reward is real, and they had specific messages for different groups.
Yes. To founders, the message was essentially, you've earned more than commissions, you've earned your place in history, but adding the numbers will follow and they will surprise you.
Okay, and for resellers?
For resellers, it was, join now. This is not just business, it's legacy.
Legacy. And then a final message to the wider world.
Yeah, an invitation, really. Watch what happens when AI meets integrity and automation meets justice.
AI meets integrity, automation meets justice.
And then the final, very definitive declaration. OnPassive commissions are not coming, they have begun. Followed by, and they are just getting started.
They have begun. Wow, that's certainly an emphatic way to end the source conversation.
It definitely leaves a strong impression.
So just to recap for everyone listening, in this deep dive, we've walked through the specific claims from that 20-minute conversation. We touched on the big vision-correcting global wrongs, they say. We looked at the described characteristics, AI-calibrated, global, generational.
Right. We cover the systematic rollout plan they outlined, linking it to global compliance. The heavy emphasis on residual income driven by automation, that business automation feeding income automation idea.
We also discussed the special message for the founders, their harvest season, and the claimed rewards beyond just money, and the mechanics, the O-wallet, global access, the claim of transparency, speed, accuracy.
And finally, that claimed future potential, with commissions growing as the ecosystem expands, tying into this idea of a living ecosystem.
And it's crucial to reiterate, our focus here was purely on unpacking and exploring the points made by Mike Ellis and Ash Mufareh within that specific source. We've just laid out the picture they painted in that particular chat.
Exactly. We haven't added anything beyond what was in the material provided, just presenting what was said for you to consider.
Which leaves you, the listener, with that final provocative thought taken directly from their words in the source. Watch what happens when AI meets integrity and automation meets justice.
That's the core outcome they seem to be presenting for this whole system. Definitely something to reflect on as you think about the claims and descriptions we've just gone through from that conversation.
Indeed. A lot packed into that source material, and certainly a lot for you to think about.
So you've likely been following the buzz, maybe wondering what's really happening this June 2025 with OnPassive. Is this the month?
It's definitely a question on people's mind.
Well, we've got our hands on a source. Think of it like maybe a detailed briefing or perhaps a transcript of a really crucial conversation.
Yeah, something that unpacks the situation with OnPassive and, interestingly, this other platform called OnFusion.
Right. So our mission in this deep dive is basically to cut through all that noise.
And tell you exactly what the specific source claims is going on right now.
Okay, let's dive right in. The main question you probably have. According to this source, is OnPassive finally launching this month?
Well, based strictly on the information we have in front of us here, the answer is no.
No launch.
The source is quite clear, actually. It states there's no official launch planned for OnPassive this month. In fact, it says the brand OnPassive itself has actually been shut down.
Wait, hang on. Shut down. That's pretty major coming from this source. What details does it give about that? About the end of OnPassive?
According to this briefing, it says OnPassive officially ceased operations sometime in early 2025.
Ceased operations.
And the source claims all systems, all agreements, and this is key, all commissions were dissolved.
Dissolved.
Yeah. This document states there won't be any more product releases under the OnPassive name, period.
Okay, wow. So if OnPassive is reportedly done, what does the source tell us about OnFusion? Is it just, the same thing with a different name?
No, and the source makes a point of this. It's explicitly presented as a completely new platform.
Completely new.
It stresses that it is not just a rebranding of OnPassive.
And how is this new infusion described? What's different according to the source?
This briefing says it's being marketed with a totally different business structure, a new compensation plan.
Okay.
And here's a really critical detail from the source. It states OnFusion has no legal ties to anything that was promised or, associated with OnPassive.
No legal ties.
Yeah.
Okay, that leads right into what must be on many listeners' minds, those past commissions. The source mentioned a figure, something like $40 million, owed under the old OnPassive setup. What does this source say happens to that money?
Right, that $40 million figure is mentioned. And what's particularly notable here, according to the source, is the claim that OnFusion basically started fresh. A clean slate.
Clean slate, so the past commissions.
All past OnPassive commissions, including that specific $40 million figure. The source states Ash Mufareh and his team are claiming there is now no legal obligation whatsoever to pay those past amounts.
No legal obligation.
Yeah.
Quite a statement from the source regarding past earnings.
It's a major takeaway from this document, definitely.
So if these past obligations are claimed to be, dissolved and reset, this must tie into the legal situation the source talks about.
Precisely. That claim about no legal obligation, it connects directly to the legal context the source highlights. It reports that the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission, the SEC.
The federal regulator, yeah.
That's right. The SEC filed a lawsuit against Ash Mufareh and OnPassive.
Okay. And what does the lawsuit, as described in this source, allege? What's the core accusation?
The source states the lawsuit alleges OnPassive was operating as a pyramid scheme.
A pyramid scheme, really?
Well, the source describes the allegation like this, claiming the model primarily paid earlier investors using money from, later investors, rather than generating revenue from actual product sales or legitimate business activity.
Got it. And timing-wise, according to the source, when did this legal action really kick off?
The source is specific here. It says the SEC court case trial actually began very recently, June 2nd, 2025.
June 2nd, so just days ago.
Exactly. That significant legal action is actively unfolding right now, this month.
Okay, so let's circle back to June then. Based only on this source material, and knowing that trial just started, is there any confirmed public product launch happening now for Infusion?
The source says, despite maybe some internal talk or buzz, there's no confirmed public product launch for Infusion. Nothing's publicly accessible yet, based on this briefing. And with that SEC trial actively ongoing since June 2nd, the source really links this legal uncertainty to the current situation. It describes it very much as a wait-and-see game for any public developments this month.
Makes sense. So what kind of advice, if any, does this source offer for someone trying to figure this all out? Some cautious guidance, perhaps?
The guidance given in the source is pretty direct. Stay cautious.
Okay.
It recommends watching official legal sources like court updates and only on Fusion's own verified updates. Don't rely on hearsay.
Right.
And it advises not to invest more money into anything related until things become completely transparent and, crucially, legally clear.
And fact-checking.
Absolutely. Always fact-check any announcements yourself. Try to separate reported facts from, well, just hype.
Okay, let's quickly recap this for you, drawing only from the source we examined today. OnPassive, described as shutdown. On Fusion, presented as a legally separate new platform.
Right. And those past commissions claim to be reset, with the source stating there's no legal obligation to pay them.
Plus, there's that active SEC lawsuit alleging a pyramid scheme, with the trial having started June 2nd.
Which leads to this wait-and-see situation for any public June developments, according to the source.
This deep dive really underscores how fast things can shift and get complicated, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And what that means for your ability to get clear information and make decisions.
Definitely. Navigating this kind of landscape is tricky.
So here's a final thought to leave you with, based purely on this source material. If, as the source states, past agreements and commissions under OnPassive were dissolved, and Infusion is presented as legally distinct with this claim of no legal obligation for past money, all while the SEC is actively pursuing a pyramid scheme case related to the original structure. What does it truly mean for a past obligation, potentially a legal or even ethical one, to simply reset when a new platform emerges from a very similar origin point, especially when it's all happening under such intense legal scrutiny? Something to think about.
Welcome to the deep dive. We've got quite a stack of sources today, all focusing on one core piece of the OnPassive world, the O-Wallet, and its whole payment ecosystem.
That's right. And our job here really is to dig into this material you shared and figure out what this internal digital payment thing actually is, how it works, its main features, and maybe most importantly, the kind of strategic thinking behind it all.
Yeah, get straight to the core insights.
Exactly. Not just a feature list.
Okay. And right away, the sources frame O-Wallet as like the absolute center, the main payment processor. They even use the phrase central nervous system for OnPassive's finances, all under CEO Ash Mufareh. Sounds pretty foundational.
Oh, it absolutely is. And thinking of it like that, like a nervous system, really highlights how it's meant to touch, almost every financial part of the ecosystem.
Integrated, not separate.
Precisely. That seems to be the design philosophy.
Okay, so let's start right there, the core system. What are the key things the sources highlight that make it the central piece?
Well, a big one they push is the AI. They talk about AI-powered transactions. So the idea is it's not just moving money. It's using smart algorithms that watch patterns, learn, and adapt.
AI watching the money flow. Why exactly?
Mostly for spotting fraud, seems like, and also for optimizing how transactions happen. The AI could potentially see weird stuff faster than, old school rule systems.
Okay, fraud detection makes sense. And smoothing things out.
Yeah, potentially.
Yeah.
And what's interesting is how that AI capability sort of branches out.
How do you mean?
Well, it's built for global use right from the start, multi-currency support. And this isn't just showing different currency symbols. It's about actually handling transactions in various currencies globally.
Which you'd need for cross-border stuff.
Essential for that kind of scalability, yeah. It seems engineered to be international from day one.
Right. And for a global platform, that tracks. What about keeping it all locked down, security?
Security is obviously huge. The sources talk about, standard but critical things. Yeah. Two-factor authentication, the extra code beyond your password.
Yep, 2FA. Standard, but you got to have it.
Absolutely. And biometric security options, too, for logging in. Fingerprint, face, that kind of thing.
Okay. And once you're verified and in the system, how quick are the payments inside OnPassive?
For transfers between users within the ecosystem, they're described as instant transfers.
Yeah.
So the goal is real-time, immediate movement of funds.
Instant inside the network. Got it. Now, compliance. That's massive for anything touching money today.
Non-negotiable, really. O-Wallet is apparently integrated directly with OnPassive's own O-Verify system.
O-Verify. That's their identity check tool.
Exactly. It handles the Know Your Customer, the KYC to check who people are, and the anti-money laundering AML checks. It sounds like verification is baked right into signing up and using it.
Building verification simplifies things, but yeah, adds that necessary friction up front. Okay, we mentioned central nervous system. This is where it gets really interesting for me. How does OWallet actually connect to all the other OnPassive tools?
Yeah, this is probably one of the biggest takeaways from the material.
Yeah.
The sources really stress that OWallet isn't separate. It's explicitly designed to link up with, well, almost everything else in their suite.
The financial plumbing connecting everything.
Kinda, yeah, the backbone connecting different apps.
Can you give us some specific examples? Like, how does it work with different products?
Okay, yeah, let's trace some connections. Take OShop, their e-commerce thing. OWallet isn't just one payment method. It's presented as the main way it handles checkouts for buyers and payouts to sellers.
Okay, so core to the marketplace.
Seems like it. Then for Odesk, their freelance platform. It's used for paying freelancers, obviously, but also for managing project escrow.
Holding the money until the work's approved.
Right, which is key for trust in those kinds of marketplaces.
Definitely. What about things like webinars or events?
So for OConnect, their webinar tool, OWallet is supposed to process payments for things like, say, pay-to-attend webinars or maybe selling tickets.
Okay.
And OBooking, which seems to be for scheduling, like hotels or tours, it's used for making the payments for those bookings directly.
And subscription tools, like their analytics.
Yep, OTracker, the analytics tool, uses OWallet for billing its subscriptions, and OMail, which apparently has ways to monetize email campaigns, OWallet would handle those transactions too.
Wow. So buying, hiring, hosting, booking, subscribing, marketing. If it involves money inside OnPassive, OWallet is meant to be there.
That's the picture painted, yes. It aims to be the transaction layer for the whole digital environment.
That integration is huge.
Yeah.
Okay, let's circle back to the AI we talked about earlier. How does it do more than just basic transaction processing? What about insights?
Right. The AI seems to have a broader role. They talk about smart contracts and conditional releases. So AI logic could potentially automate releasing funds only when certain conditions are met.
Like what?
Well, imagine payment for a freelance job only getting released after the system verifies the task is done somehow. Or maybe handling complex escrow rules automatically.
Automated conditional payments. That could handle some tricky situations. What about insights for the users themselves? Does it tell you anything?
Yeah, it mentions transaction insights. The AI analyzes your activity within OWallet to give you reports, show spending trends, maybe even offer forecasts based on your habits.
Like a mini financial advisor based on your OWallet history.
Sort of, yeah, but focus just on the data inside the ecosystem. They specifically mentioned spending behavior tracking with personalized AI reports, trying to help users see where their money's going and, maybe spend or save better within that on and passive world.
That level of tracking, even just for optimization, it highlights how much data the system is designed to handle.
Okay, shifting focus a bit. Global reach. We touched on it, but let's dig into the borderless idea, interoperability, and the whole regulatory side. The design is definitely framed as global first, aiming to make transactions feel borderless, at least within the system.
And currencies, just regular money or more.
Both, it seems. It supports traditional fiat currencies, obviously, but also other digital currencies. And interestingly, the sources explicitly say they're exploring future integration with major cryptocurrencies.
So crypto is on the roadmap. That's a big step if it happens.
Signals an intent to connect to that wider digital asset world, yeah.
What about businesses outside OnPassive wanting to use this? Any way for them to plug in?
They mentioned merchant tools, APIs, and SDKs specifically. These are the technical bits that would let external websites or apps potentially embed OWallet for payments.
Okay, so developer tools to potentially let others use it, extending its reach.
That seems to be the idea, yeah. Not purely internal.
And how does it connect to the traditional banking system around the world, getting money in and out?
The sources mention talks or actual implementations with banks, particularly pointing to Asia, Africa, and the Middle East. This is pretty vital for fiat settlement, turning the digital balance into actual money in a local bank account.
Yeah, you need those on-ramps and off-ramps.
It suggests they're working on bridging that gap with existing financial infrastructure.
Makes sense. Let's revisit compliance, but maybe with more specifics. What global standards are they aiming for?
They list some key acronyms, suggesting they're aiming for broad compliance. GDPR is mentioned. That's the big European data privacy law.
Right, data protection.
And PCI DSS, That's the standard for handling credit card data securely.
Card security, got it.
And frameworks like FinCEN, which is US-focused, and FATF, which is global, both are about fighting money laundering and financial crime.
So data, cards, and financial crime prevention, covering the bases.
That's the impression given. And they circle back to O-Verify again, saying it's key for meeting these rules by doing real-time digital ID checks for people and businesses joining the platform.
Compliance seems baked in from the start, not tacked on later.
That's how it's presented, yes. Integral to onboarding.
Okay, let's switch gears to something purely internal to OnPassive. How money gets distributed within the platform, commissions, partner payments, that sort of thing.
Right, they talk about an automated commissions engine. Basically, it means payments for founders, resellers, affiliates, partners, whoever earns money through the platform structure are calculated and sent out automatically using O-Wallet.
So all the internal rewards and payments flow through this same system.
Exactly. And it's designed to handle, they say, dynamic commission structures. So payments might change based on performance or deals, and customizable withdrawal schedules, letting people choose when they take their earnings out to some extent.
So O-Wallet isn't just for customers buying things, it's also how OnPassive pays its own network.
It makes it truly the central hub for money movement, yeah. External and internal flows.
Okay. What about bigger businesses? Are there uses for O-Wallet in like a corporate setting? Enterprise uses?
The sources do point to several potential enterprise applications. A major one is corporate payroll. The idea that businesses within the OnPassive network could potentially run their entire payroll through O-Wallet.
Paying employee salaries, that's a whole different level from P2P transfers.
It is, yeah. Another one is subscription management. So OnPassive's own subscription services, like O-Connect or O-Staff, would naturally use O-Wallet for billing their users regularly.
Makes sense they'd use their own tool. Does AI help manage those subscriptions?
Apparently so. They mentioned a smart billing engine, using AI to keep track of subscriptions, send reminders automatically, maybe suspend accounts if payments fail, and handle renewals.
Automating the admin side of subscriptions.
Right. It takes some burden off the businesses using those tools.
Payroll and smart subscription billing. These point towards O-Wallet aiming higher than just individual users or small merchants. It's looking at B2B financial services.
It seems that way.
Which leads nicely into the bigger strategic vision the sources talk about. What's the ultimate goal here, according to Ash Mufareh?
Well, the ambition level is high. The vision described is for O-Wallet to become something like a central digital bank just for the OnPassive ecosystem.
Wow. A digital bank inside the ecosystem. What kind of services would that even mean based on what they have now?
Leveraging all that integrated data we talked about. The vision includes potential future stuff like AI-driven digital lending and credit scoring based on how you behave in the ecosystem.
Loans based on your OnPassive activity?
Potentially. They also mention possibilities like microinvestment options, tools for insurance underwriting, and down the line, maybe even integrating decentralized finance or DeFi tools.
So the payment system now is maybe just phase one, the foundation for offering loans, investments, insurance, all inside OnPassive.
That's the long-term vision presented, using the closed ecosystem's data and payment rails to build out a whole suite of financial products. It's, yeah, incredibly ambitious.
It really is, leveraging that captive data. Okay, we mentioned security before, but any more details on the infrastructure?
Building on the 2FA and biometrics, they mention end-to-end encryption for transactions. Standard practice, but essential.
Protects the data moving back and forth. Crucial.
Yes. And role-based access controls. That's more for businesses using it, letting them set different permission levels for different employees.
Important for organizational use, sure.
And something looking further ahead. They mentioned blockchain-enhanced ledgering is being developed, using blockchain tech to create a transaction history that's basically unchangeable, tamper-proof.
Ah, blockchain for the ledger. Adds that layer of integrity, potentially transparency, too.
Could do, yeah. Harder to dispute transactions if it's on an immutable ledger.
Okay. And finally, just to wrap up the future stuff, any other specific capabilities mentioned beyond the whole digital bank idea?
Well, as we touched on, crypto integration is explicitly planned, letting the wallet hold and transact major cryptocurrencies.
Connecting OnPassive to the wider crypto world.
Right. And also something very practical. An offline mode. This is aimed at users where internet access might be spotty, thinking particularly about regions in Africa and Asia.
Allowing some functions without constant connection. That's a nod to real-world infrastructure limits.
It addresses a genuine challenge for global users, yeah. And one last thing. tying back to AI,
Yeah.
an AI credit builder.
Credit builder.
Yeah, the idea seems to be that users could build up some kind of credit score based purely on their positive activity and history within the OnPassive ecosystem itself, separate from traditional credit bureaus.
Building credit based on how you use the platform, that really hammers home how